Okay, my loves. I know there are a lot of you that are out there that are really wondering, how do I even set boundaries anymore? Maybe you didn't grow up with great boundaries. Maybe boundaries weren't really modeled well for you, or maybe you were told that you cannot have boundaries. Maybe you're tired of being gaslighted in your relationships, and you're tired of feeling crazy all the time and guilty for trying to make a difference in your life. If this is you, then I want you to come schedule a call with me. Let's chat about the Unashamed Image Program. The Unashamed Image Program is geared towards you specifically. I am going to be helping you in our next upcoming session of the Unashamed Image. I am personally going to train you how to not feel crazy when someone is gaslighting you, how to be able to stand your ground, to keep your boundaries intact, and to also see through the bull crap. I am also going to be teaching you how to set really confident boundaries that you can really rely on. And I'm going to help you communicate them in a way that really makes sense. Basically, I'm going to help you live a life free of shame and on your terms. If you are ready and you are done feeling all the shame and guilt for trying to set boundaries, if you are not willing to live another moment the way you are right now and in somebody else's shadow, then this is the time to schedule that call with me. It's completely free, no pressure, just love, just support. Go to www.erinandersonthetraumacoach.com. Scroll down the page to where it says, Let's Chat About Working Together. Click on that button and it'll take you to my booking page. If you're ready to live the unashamed life, schedule that call. Let's get you in the Unashamed Image Program, my loves. From my heart to your heart. Bye. Welcome to the other side of the struggle. This is a podcast where we talk about trauma, how to heal it, and then how to take it and use it to unlock your mission and your potential, and to use it to live your very best dream life. When you're dealing with betrayal trauma, it can be hard to know how to heal it, how to stop the pain, and to know what your next steps are to take in your own life. And these are the questions that we try to answer here. Trauma has the ability to rob us of our joy and identity, which is why it's so miserable to experience. But with the right tools and with the right mindset, we can totally reclaim that joy and even use this trauma to strengthen ourselves, so that way trauma does not knock us off of our joy again. Living your dream life should be a non-negotiable, but trauma tends to try to negotiate that with you. And even though trauma is not something that we will completely ever be free of in our life, the pain is negotiable. This is why I created Erin Anderson Betrayal Trauma Coaching and this podcast, is because I want my listeners, I want my clients to live, truly live free from the prison that trauma can put you in. I want you to live on the other side of the struggle. Okay, I want you to stop what you're doing right now for just a minute, and I really want you to hear me out. I want you to go right now to erinanderson.kartra.com/page/heart of gold. There you are going to find a free meditation just for you from me. This meditation is amazing. Let me tell you a little bit about what it's going to give you. Okay? Number one, it's going to help boost your confidence. If you are dealing with trauma, then you are most likely dealing with a confidence issue as well. And it's something that you are really, really wanting back. Number two, it is going to help you find security in your situations in your life because it's going to help you gain a sense of self-love and some self-trust. The third thing this is going to give you is an ability to escape the trauma that you're experiencing right now, this very minute, and help you find peace and joy and love and a deep appreciation for you and your experiences. This is going to really help you reconnect with yourself. So, that is very, very, very important when you are dealing with healing from trauma. So, again, I'm going to tell you what that website is that you need to go to. erinanderson.kartra, KARTRA.com/page/heart of gold. Capital HEARTOF, capital GOLD. Go check out this meditation. Please claim it for yourself because it is 100% a gift from me to you to help you heal right now from trauma. All my love. Hey everyone, Happy New Year! Welcome back to another episode of The Other Side of the Struggle. Now, this is a really awesome episode because those of you that have been following me on my podcast know for a fact, that's how I introduce myself on every single podcast. But I've decided to open up my YouTube channel a bit more, and so I'm also going to be recording these in video now to YouTube as well. So you'll get both of these things there from now on. So I'm going to be doing a podcast. Obviously, I'm going to keep this up. And I'm also going to be adding the video portion of this particular podcast to YouTube each time. So you'll be able to see this also on YouTube from now on. Anyway, so I'm really excited about that. It's going to definitely be a growing experience for me as I learn how to edit videos, how to make them look good, how to expand my horizons a little bit. And it's also going to be, it's just going to be a whole new experience as I learn to navigate YouTube. So be patient with me as I learn this. But in the meantime, I mean, those of you that are my faithful Buzzsprout listeners, it's also going to be this channel, the YouTube channel will also be known as The Other Side of the Struggle, Healing from Betrayal Trauma. Okay, just because it's easier to find if everything's kind of under the same label. Okay, or I may also put it under Erin Anderson Betrayal Trauma Coaching, just simply because, again, same label stuff. But anyway, look for one of those if you guys want to look at the live video of this recording. I will let you guys know what name I decide on. But yeah, that's kind of where we're going with this. Today, though, especially where this is a new year, there are some things I definitely want to talk about. Like, I want to kind of focus
this month on a new year, new you kind of a thing. Because one thing I hear so many people say that come to me and are working with me as clients is this idea that they really, really want a sense of themselves again. They want to be able to find themselves again. I hear that so much. And I get it. Oh my gosh, do I ever get it? Because when you're dealing with trauma, and especially when it's betrayal trauma, it's easy to feel like you've lost yourself. And a large portion of that is due to the things that trauma can make you believe and all of these lies that trauma seems to bring into our lives and to try to convince us of. And I'm actually going to do a podcast about that at a future date. The untruths that trauma teaches you. Okay. But today I really wanted to talk about getting intentional. Okay. That is the first pillar. Again, we're going to get deeper into intention on a different podcast later on. That one's coming up as well. Mainly what I want to kind of hit on today is this idea that you want to start thinking about what it is you actually want to create. Okay? If you're like me, you're very likely thinking to yourself as you're dealing with this trauma, as you're trying to navigate it, how do I fix this problem? How do I get out of the trauma? How do I heal? How do I get my life back? And it feels like an impossible task, especially if you're still in the thick of the experience, okay? But setting some sort of an intention for yourself or a goal, really, is what helps you start the process of healing, okay? You're already really clear about what it is you don't want. This is the thing that you're living on a daily basis, right? But are you clear on what it is you do want? And unless if you've done a lot of self-work already, I'm going to guess the answer is a no. At least it definitely wasn't with me as I was going through my healing process. Trying to figure out what it is I wanted felt astronomical. It felt really hard. And like I had to give so much more energy to just another thing. Hence another untruth that trauma teaches us, right? That we have to work super, 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 super hard, that we can't, and like give more energy somewhere else. And it's not the case. It's more like a redistribution of energy, okay? And if you guys have followed my podcast, you guys know that I talk about, taking the energy and the focus and your time and your talents. You've been throwing a lot of that into the trauma, trying to solve it, okay? But it's not giving you a great rate of return. However, if you take it off, shlunk, and put it instead, it sounded just like the Grinch there, by the way, shlunk. Anyway, if you're a Grinch watcher, you know what I mean. But you take it off of that and you put it instead on either a relationship with Christ, which is my main focus. Okay. You want something that's going to give you a better return. You're not getting a return on your investment, in a sense. Okay. Because you're investing a lot of time, energy, talents, thought, all of this. You're investing a lot of that into trying to solve the problem. And your brain does that. And it also it becomes almost obsessive in trying to solve this problem that it feels like that's what you have to do in order to solve it, but it's not getting solved. It's not getting solved. That's why it's feeling overwhelming. That's why it's draining you. Okay. And you feel like putting more energy into something else is just going to drain you even further, and you're correct. That's why you have to take and redistribute the energy to something else that's going to give you a return on your investment. You truly are investing something here, okay? It might not be, it could be money too. You probably actually are losing money on this, but you're investing a lot of resources into something that's not giving you a rate of return, okay? So putting it into a relationship with God instead is really helpful because it's going to help you start understanding his characteristics. That was one of the first ideas that came to me as I was going through my healing journey was this idea to get a list of the Lord's characteristics. And to this day, I still will sometimes put down a list of characteristics, especially around this time of year. This whole idea of this new you, new thought process, new mentality, this new piece of you awakening and emerging is just so good. And here it is, the new year. Felt like this is definitely something that needed to come out. And so starting to write this list of the characteristics of God not only takes your focus off of the thing that's not giving you a investment or a return on your investment, I should say, and it puts it into instead a something that will give you a return. And if you don't believe in God, cool. What are some characteristics of someone you admire greatly? We can start there. You basically want to start getting some characteristics, a list of characteristics, a list of guiding stars in a sense that will help you know what your next step is. You've heard of people choosing a word for the new year. Sometimes it's commitment, sometimes it's compassion, abundance. Oh, I've done organized, I have done free, in control. Okay, meaning in control of myself, okay, or self-control. But if you really take a look at all of those characteristics I just mentioned, every single one of them is a characteristic you could literally attach to God or a person you deeply admire. So this is why I say forgiveness was another one, by the way. But this is why I say get a running list of characteristics, words, traits of a person who is deeply joyful, in control of themselves, and has their confidence, their security, and their joy intact. If you have a list like that, that's going to help you know what it is you need to focus on. Now, I'm going to add this. When I first started doing this practice, like adding a word for the year, I thought I had to focus on that word solely for 365 days. Not necessarily. Sometimes I felt like I had needed to shift words halfway through the year, or even 3 months into the year, and do a different character study, deep dive kind of a thing. And so I'm going to invite you to be open to the option or the idea that in a few months you might decide to change your word. Okay? Um, or yeah, honestly, in a few months you might decide to change the word because you feel like you've done a really good job. You feel like you've kind of got a pretty good experience on what that is or what that looks like. But I also want you to be okay with the idea that maybe your word for the year might not change. You might decide to have that word for the entire year. That's also okay. The idea here is it gives you one thing to focus on, one thing to build on. wanting to understand better. And as you sit there and you start finding these characteristics of Christ and you pick one that you really want to focus on and maybe adopt into your life, it actually helps you align yourself with Christ. It truly does. It helps you get a similar idea, similar sense, similar purpose, similar mission, all of that stuff moving forward. It gives you a night, it kind of like gives you a glimpse into the mind of Christ, which is huge because this is actually one of the healing tools. The reason why he lived such a perfect life is for us to do that exact thing. This exact thing. Taking a characteristic and studying it, using his life to study it, find truth, and adopt it into our own lives. So, for an example, the reason why I mentioned forgiveness before, and again, we're going to do a whole podcast on that one as well, and what I've learned, that was one of the first characteristics and first words that I decided to use, is this idea of forgiveness. And I will tell you this much, I had a totally wrong view and understanding of what forgiveness was. I didn't want to give it because I didn't understand it. Now that I understand it so well, because I've done this character study, I've dove into scripture and studied forgiveness on a very deep level. I have dove into stories of other people who've experienced deep forgiveness. There was, as I was learning about forgiveness, there was this a story about an Amish community whose daughters were killed by a crazy guy. Basically, he came into the community and started shooting, and several of the girls were killed. And immediately they forgave him. They walked into the prison after he was caught. All these parents of their daughters who had passed away due to this shooting, they walked in to the prison and told him to his face, "We forgive you." And I was like, "Oh, wow. What is that all about?" Right? It really made me curious because if I were in that guy's shoes, like if I were in those parents' shoes, I would kind of like really want to shoot him back. Like, and that might be a weakness of mine. I will totally own that. But I think those of you that are listening or watching this, you can understand that if you're a parent. Like, I love my kids fiercely, deeply. I am devoted to them. And the idea of having someone take one away from me in such a brutal manner, like it elicits rage right there inside of me. Not so it's not necessarily a good thing. But I did a really deep study on those people and like what their thoughts were. What did they understand that I didn't understand? How were they able to live with joy after something so terrible happened? And I've also heard of Sandy Hook parents doing the same thing, forgiving the person that went in and shot their children at the Sandy Hook Elementary. And so I studied things like that. Here's my point. When you write a list of characteristics down and you pick one of those characteristics that you're going to focus on, that's going to become your word for this year. You pick one of those and you start to do this study on that characteristic. Start asking yourself these questions. What was this person thinking when they became forgiving, when they started to become giving or charitable or generous or abundant, whatever your word is, that's just going to give you that next up level in your life. Whatever that word is, now you get to do a study of its characteristics and what people think. How do they behave?
So, how do you feel about boundaries? It's a legitimate question. A lot of people come to me really struggling with this concept. They often feel guilty for setting boundaries, or they're not sure about even what a boundary is. They've heard the term, set the boundary, things like that, but that's really confusing for them because it's not something that's well taught in our society nowadays, right? They know that boundaries are really important to having healthy, constructive, supportive, and wonderful relationships, but why? And oftentimes they also know that they feel like their boundaries are being violated, but they can't quite pinpoint what the boundary is that's being violated. That's why I've created the Clarifying and Creating Your Boundaries free PDF. You can find out what your boundaries are, how to tune in to what the boundary needs to be, and how to effectively create and communicate your boundary so that way you stay in this place that respects you, respects the other person, but also gives you the confidence in your boundaries so that way you stop being gaslighted, disrespected, and unseen. Having your boundaries really clear gives you a voice and also helps the other person stay in accountability with themselves. So that's not a role that you have to take on anymore. So if you are ready to really have clear boundaries, to really understand what your role is in the boundary, and to give yourself some safety and some protection against people that might try to gaslight you or are just being disrespectful, go grab my Creating and Clarifying Your Boundary PDF at erinandersonthetraumacoach.com. And while you're there, let's schedule a call with me. Come have a chat with me so that way I can really, really help you master this particular skill, creating boundaries, clarifying the boundary, communicating that boundary, and so that way I can also help you have relationships that show up to support you, cherish you, and love you.
If you know somebody that is a really good embodiment of this word, confident or forgiving or abundant, charitable, I would even go so far as to interview them and ask them questions. And you could even do a mental interview of a scripture hero, like John the Baptist. He was dedicated, truthful, fearless. He was fearless, courageous, loyal, loving, caring. These are just some a list of characteristics you could pull out of John the Baptist, and you could ask yourself these questions. How did he behave? What is it in his behavior that made him seem confident or loyal or whatever word you choose? What was he thinking that made him act this way? What were some of his stimuluses? Remember that 5-step thought process? Stimulus, thoughts, feelings, actions, and then you get your results, right? So what were some of his stimuluses? How did he think about those stimuluses? How did he feel? And how did he act upon those things? And what were his results? You can literally get a notebook, write those 5 circles down, and put those in. For me, forgiveness. Okay? How often did Christ have to offer forgiveness? Daily. He had to give forgiveness daily. He forgave Pharisees, Sadducees, his disciples, his parents, apostles, you name it. He had to forgive daily. So what was he thinking? How did he feel? How did Christ act based upon that knowledge and those feelings? And what were his results? And are those things that I want? Also be prepared as you do this to start getting some downloads of wisdom. I know for a fact that this is one of the things that has helped open the doors of heaven to me. And one of the things that helps me really, really get divine inspiration. Sometimes I just hear the most beautiful phrases and the most beautiful thoughts and the most beautiful words that come into my mind that really guide me in my mission, my purpose, and my desires. Just from doing this one thing. I really want to encourage those of you that are either watching this video or listening to my podcast. Let's start the year out right. Give yourself the gift of a characteristic this year. To truly think, to truly be able to understand these things. And if you're on YouTube, I would love in the comment section below to hear what characteristic you're choosing and what is some of the wisdom that you are gaining from choosing that characteristic. How are you understanding it better? What did you think it was before? And tell me what it is you're seeing now. I would love that. So until then, I'm really excited to hear what it is you guys come up with and the feedback I get. Next week, we are totally talking about the 10 untruths that trauma teaches. Trauma definitely will give you a lot of lies, hence the reason why studying characteristics is a good idea, is it will also help you understand like how trauma has lied to you and the thoughts that you have been thinking and have taken as truth that haven't been serving you. They've actually been keeping you stuck in trauma. Okay. So we're going to talk about that next week. Again, I can't wait to hear and see your characteristics, your words for the year, and what it is you're learning about them. Until next week, my loves, I'll see you then. Bye.
Hey, fabulous listener. I have a question for you. How done with trauma are you? Are you ready to uplevel your life and start creating the dreams that you thought were out of your reach? Are you ready to be free of the choices of other people? Are you ready to start living a life for yourself and creating the dreams that you want? And are you ready to start attracting relationships that show up to support those dreams? Are you also ready to create an amazing and deep love and trust in yourself and your decisions? If this is an absolute yes, then I want to invite you to come and join my 7-day Unashamed Chalk Talk. In this 7-day course, we are going to be going over each one of the 7 pillars for living an unashamed and completely self-trustful life. You will have some very quick, very concise, but powerful assignments to do every day. Plus, you also get access to me live for 7 days. You are going to get to learn how to set the goals that you want to achieve in your life completely unashamed, and also how to figure out what it is that's out of alignment in your life and stopping you from achieving those goals. Then we're going to get into how to get your brain to actually listen to the things that you want and start working on creating them. And also how to give yourself permission to truly love and care for yourself in an amazingly, fabulously fun way. And also how to regain the confidence and love that you deserve to give yourself, despite what anyone else thinks, says, or does about you. Now I can almost hear you say, okay, well, that sounds great, but how much does it cost? That is also an exciting part of this. It's only $97. Ah! How awesome is that? For only $97, you can start creating the changes you want. There's literally no reason for you to not click on the link in the description below and get started. Come join me today in the Unashamed. Hey guys, thanks so much for hanging out with me today and listening in on this podcasting episode. Don't forget to tune in next week. It's gonna